Hello everyone, Varixis here again. I hope you've been enjoying the new style of videos I've been putting out for the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, my microphone is still broken, and I'm being forced to use my webcam's microphone to record this. I will do the best I can to edit out any funny business, but apologies in advance. I decided that this was going to take a more personal, serious touch, and so I was not going to use the text-to-speech robot in order to record this week's episode. We need to talk about game modes. Rampant negative Steam reviews, Reddit, forum posts, anywhere that there's discussion on depth, there are people who are wondering where the Diver vs. Diver modes are and where Haywire went, why it wasn't permanent. Multitudes of people have claimed from their all-knowing thrones that depth is doomed to a slow and agonizing death if Digital Confectioners doesn't add a Diver vs. Diver mode. Now, if you've watched my Haywire update video, you'll know I wasn't a big fan of the Haywire game mode. I had a lot of problems with it, many of which are going to outline why I think a Diver vs. Diver mode in the current build of depth is most likely not possible, and why adding a Diver vs. Diver mode isn't going to help depth's overall health as much as people think. So let's talk about the Haywire experiences first, since we've actually had them. Haywire was a fun little update, and I enjoyed the skins immensely. But I felt that the Haywire game mode showed several flaws in the game's design that currently discourages a Diver vs. Diver game mode. All the weapons are balanced against hitting sharks that are much larger than a diver, and divers in turn are designed with mobility that works against sharks whose attacks move them quite a distance through space. Certain weapons are absolutely useless against divers, whereas others are absolutely pure cancer in how effective they are. The maps are designed in such a way that camping in Diver vs. Diver modes is heavily encouraged, and fights devolve into basically hallway shooting galleries. Now, does that mean that Diver vs. Diver modes aren't going to happen ever in depth? No, I mean, as we've already seen, Haywire will be brought back as a mini-event periodically for everyone who loved it, and technically there's still Megalodon Hunt, and we all remember how great that game mode was, right? But as for a new permanent mode, I don't think so. At least not right now. That would require a whole set of new maps, rebalance of entire weapons and items, and potentially a revamp of diver movement. That's far too much work out of Digital Confectioners when they have much bigger fish to fry. You'll excuse the pun. Now that segues nicely into the next topic I want to cover today, and that is what Digital Confectioners is currently working on to improve the health of Depth's community. Right now they're targeting two things: new player experience, and player retention. Now, I talked about these things in my free-to-play discussion video, but it's worth talking about more in depth. I, personally, fell in love with Depth because it blended a powerful, adrenaline-flowing shooter experience with a new set of skills to learn, and put a nice little cherry on top of the shark theme. However, there was a bit of a wall that I hit where I felt overwhelmed and lacked a bit of direction on how to learn how to get good. Now, I overcame this wall by asking for help and doing a bit of digging, reading guides, and basically learning everything on my own. But I've realized that I'm a bit of an outlier for this game, and that most new players give up before they reach the point of overcoming the difficulty curve. So what can we do to help newer players survive the curve? I think being a little more clear about information, honestly, is going to do a lot. There's a lot to know about Depth, and while there are fantastic guides that I gush about all the time from veteran players, watch my mental checklist video, wink wink nudge nudge, I think that making the information more accessible to new players would help a lot. An example of a very simple change would be to make the Learn tab a mandatory click after completing the tutorial, and after unlocking new equipment and evolutions. Showing actual hard numbers in that tab for each item wouldn't be a bad idea either. Now beyond that, a short new player pool where newbies can get pulled against other newbies until level 10, let's say, would do wonders for everyone's experience, both new players and veterans. We don't have a shortage of newer players, and that would let them get a fair bit of experience before getting tossed into the meat grinder that is beyond the pool. Now you can even make two pools, one for each major difficulty spike. Level 1 through 9 pool for brand new characters, and then level 10 through 25 for those who have graduated but still have quite a bit to learn. Now once they have the mandatory level or number of games under their belt, let them loose into the full player base with a bit of a fun warning and a prize, like, I don't know, a cool badge or maybe a neat weapon skin. These are just some of the ideas I think that could work. But I would love to hear your comments. Player retention and new player experiences are the biggest problems that Depth needs to tackle in order to stay relevant. Diver versus diver mode is not only unnecessary, but very unlikely right now. Tell me what you guys think. Until next time, my name is Verixis, and I'll see you in the water.